Hey everyone, welcome to this special broadcast from 21st Century Saints, our podcast and live stream series for members, those affiliated with, those adjacent to, those who have an interest in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints here in the United Kingdom and around the world. This is going to be just you and I having a chat. Alana is poorly and can't join us today. So it's just going to be you and me, and we're going to talk about something that's pretty tough. We hope you enjoyed meeting Nicola earlier on in our earlier broadcasts. Isn't she amazing? Thank you for the time that you've already spent with us, but we want to have a chat tonight about something that's relevant to, I think, most of us here in the church. And I'm going to share it probably more in the form of a statement than anything else. But if you guys want to have a conversation in the chat, you are more than welcome to. If you have any questions, then do let me know. But what I would like to share with you guys is this. Earlier tonight, today is Palm Sunday. Here in the UK, we're actually now into the next day. But on Palm Sunday, I was able to join with some of the amazing people from Community of Christ for their online worship. They're doing such a fantastic job. But the message that they shared with me today was really powerful. Something that's really affected me. As the message was shared about Palm Sunday, it wasn't the usual timeline that we hear about rejoicing and worship, and that, not that those aren't good things, but the things that I normally got to hear in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. The weekly message, it wasn't even the weekly message about how we need to trust God through our trials, the gospel of always having to be strong during trials. It wasn't so much about any of that. This was a message where, as they talked about how Jesus in the temple had chased out the moneylenders, this was a message of activism and protest and coordination against injustice. And that was the focus. And this past few weeks in Scotland has seen a situation play out that's not just affected us here in this country, but it's affected, I would say, the whole of the United Kingdom, the whole of church membership in the United Kingdom. I'm only choosing to go into very little of the situation that I'm talking about, that I'm alluding to. I'm not going to go into it at all, other than to say that this situation has a very serious, there's a very serious context. My plan earlier this week had been to talk about the situation, had been to talk about, rather than talk about the situation itself, I wanted to talk about the fallout, the reaction, how people were processing what was happening. It is a matter of public record, but I wanted to be very careful about how I was speaking about it. And so we were going to do an episode last Thursday, and we decided to cancel that episode a matter of hours before we were going to go live. Again, I wanted to talk about the context and the community reaction, but I was asked not to. And I paid attention to people who were commenting or had messaged and told me that I should be silent, that even to talk about it at all was inappropriate. Now, guys, I'm a Mormon. You know this. This is a faith tradition which I chose this faith tradition. I converted to it I've chosen this tradition to express my connection to the divine. I take it really seriously, and that's why I'm here in this space. If you have any background in the church or seeing how things play out, we silence each other all the time, especially as women, especially by men silencing women. And Alana and I, we started this journey because we needed to talk about the hard things. We needed to talk about the things that we are supposed to process just anywhere except for out loud, that we're not even really supposed to think about. Not talking about the hard things created and continues to create a sickness within our community, but also within our hearts. People choose to leave the church every day in increasing numbers, leaving the church in the pain of that silence. So our church, which is full of that pain, cannot heal without us doing the work of breaking silence, of talking, of disagreeing sometimes, disagreeing maybe more than we're comfortable with, but it begins with talking. All healing must be rooted in communicating and talking of pain, of breaking silence, because silence helps no one. Even if you think it does, this week, I thought it would. Silence kills. There is no growth and there is no holiness in fear born of silence. I think the assumption, and I'm aware of still not being clear or even alluded to what it is that I'm talking about, what this situation actually is. But I'm going to talk about it right now, but I'm still not going to be specific about what it is. If there is any research, any homework that you guys feel that you would like to do, then go for it. I guess I'm speaking to the people who are already aware that there is a situation where there's a lot of pain. And I'm going to ask you just to, for the moment, just extrapolate what you think I might be talking about from my words. Now, I think the assumption in us planning to do last Thursday's episode, I think the assumption was that we were going to talk in detail about a situation and pick a side. I let the fears and silence of other people silence me. So what it did is that it meant I felt the peace that comes from the world, the peace that comes from being subdued. There is no honor or godliness in that peace, and that's what I learned today. Silencing is not God's peace, and it is not godly peace. So, in using my voice, I hope that I can reflect the mission of this podcast, which I've had to be very clear about this week. To myself, to Alana, to others, we've had to talk. We've done so much talking about our aims and about our integrity. So I hope I reflect the mission of the podcast and the mission of me as a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I am not speaking on Alana's behalf, but Alana completely supports me. Alana will share her own views in her own time if she chooses to do that. She's not spoken out. She's not well, which is why she's not here with us, or I'm sure she would be sharing her views. But for those of you who believe in the Holy Ghost, I ask for the presence of the Holy Ghost as I share this. And for those who don't have faith that looks exactly like that, just maybe please be with me as I try really hard to get this statement or this, these words, as I try to get that right for everyone. Now, Scotland is really small. We all pretty much know each other, and that extends through the whole of the UK and then through the whole world. missions are served here. We all look out for each other. Mormonism is a small world. It's a beautiful thing. And what it means is that we're able to see things when they go really right, and things when they go wrong get dialed up to 11. Now, a criminal case occurred very recently here in Scotland, and I'm not going to provide links or give details here. And I know that'll be really frustrating for you guys, but it did involve real people and their real experience. And like I say, if you guys want to go digging or do any homework, that's your choice. Now, in the case of the accused, we got to see how an LDS community rallied round in love and support of its members. In a time of pain, the whole church community, and even those who had transitioned away from the church community, all reached out in their time of pain and stood with them. In the case of the victims, I should probably use the correct language here, in the case of the alleged victims and the alleged accused. In the case of the alleged victims, we got to see how far we've come as humans, leaving behind unhealthy systems to punish or discipline children. Now, as an aside, which is one of the aims of what we wanted to do last week, was to provide some context, which I think is important. In Scotland, the courts here have got 3 possible verdicts, not 2. There's guilty, there's not guilty, and the third controversial, not proven verdict. Now, people who are supportive of the accused, they have obviously concerns about that not proven verdict, where it was applied in some charges. The people who are alleged victims obviously have concerns about that not proven verdict being applied in some charges. That verdict, which is what I want to focus on for the moment, that verdict is terrible. It's unsatisfactory for everyone involved. Now, I'm not going to explain what it means here. What I'm going to do is suggest and ask that if you have any interest, please go and have a look on Google. You will find it explained in dozens of different ways. I don't want to sort of further trigger people who are directly affected by the case by going into the nuances of what the not proven verdict means. So, yeah, in the media coverage, it's mentioned. Most of the charges were not guilty, except in this one instance. So go have a look, and you can see, I think, why there is this controversy around the verdict. So not saying that the verdict itself in this case is controversial, the fact that not proven as a verdict is a controversial verdict, which is, it doesn't bring real justice for anyone. You'll see that if you have a look on Google, that the not proven verdict itself is standing trial. As a review is looking at getting rid of it in a move that I 100% and fully support, as I think do most Scots who are aware of it. Take a look and decide yourself, just so that you know what it is. I am not encouraging anyone to look at cases that are existing and suggest that they retry it in their own mind at all. But yeah, if you have more you would like to know, the information is out there. So, as I say, when I say the verdict is controversial, I'm not talking about in response to this particular case. I'm explaining for those of you who have read media coverage of the case, which I think even a casual reader would agree with me, it reads a lot more like clickbait. That when you come across that phrase in relation to the Scottish justice system, this is hard on everyone. Now, my concern is for the people involved in this process and the communities who love them. And today, Palm Sunday made me realise that the reason I stood up in the first place was to do things that weren't going to be easy. This podcast was about the hard conversations, and my ungodly silence lets down everyone that I owe a duty to. My Latter-day Saint people, my people who have stepped back from Mormonism, everyone is let down. I always wanted our church leaders to be more specific with things and stop tiptoeing around things that are sensitive, as I'm aware I'm doing a little bit right now. We see extremist views like the far right, DesNat, really offensive stuff that we see in Twitter. I want to hear that called out in real terms by church leadership. I want to hear specific cases of misogyny called out for what they are. I want to hear apologies for our racist policies and doctrines of the past. So with that in mind, because I seek clarity and directness from leaders and not sort of general soft soaping, what I want to say in clear terms is this. As a church member, I've watched people defending each other and attacking each other online, making veiled accusations and comments. Not just in this case. There's a reason why I, go to great lengths to make sure that I stay away from the comment section of my own church, of most newspaper websites. Facebook comments are places that we probably should avoid. They are terrible for our mental health. But this is my people, and this is right now. And it's what I say is going to be completely supported by a section of the handbook that says pretty much the same thing. But let me be more direct than that directness of the handbook. If you are somehow thinking that going on to social media or even sending private messages where you are being unkind, where you are judging, where you are accusing, you have to stop right now and you have to change. Your job as a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is to comfort those who need it. That's the promise that you made. You committed to it. And I expect that members of the church, people who are fellow members of the church, are going to honor that covenant that we are so good at preaching at other people. This situation just now that has been unfolding, that has been in the public eye, is horrific. You will have thoughts, you will have feelings. That is completely understandable, especially in light of the fact that I'm talking about silencing people. But you do not get to go on to social media and join in some kind of online tirade in the name of justice so that the right people will get to see where you stand, so that you'll feel that somehow you're doing the right thing. It is not healthy and it is not becoming of your status as a Latter-day Saint. If you're deconstructing away from being a member of the church, then you should damn well know better. The things that I have seen posted online this week are vile. Comparisons to Nazis, comparisons to Satan himself are vile. And if I have any voice in this community, which I love, then let me use this platform to say that that is very, very wrong. Again, it maybe sounds, in the light of what I said earlier, like I'm silencing you. If you feel that you have some insider knowledge into the characters of people you love, then of course you're going to feel angry and upset. But this corrupt communication is not what standing as a witness of Jesus Christ was ever supposed to look like. And do you know the people who are involved? Well, go be their friend and be fiercely their friends. But remember to give people the grace and the space to be messy and to be complicated. This is not an aimed statement when I say this, but bad people can do good things and good people can do bad things. We are messy, we are complicated, we are humans who have the right to learn and grow and be better. Now, if we once, as a whole community, as a whole nation, believed that disciplining our children, that corporal punishment was an acceptable thing, today it's illegal. We can stand along with the handbook and stand against abusive practices. But until we're calling out things for the abusive practices that they are, then we can't possibly hope to recognise it within our own midst. So as a podcast, we stand up and we say, hitting children is not acceptable as a form of punishment. Now, I say that in the gentlest form of smacking a child, the gentlest way that could possibly look. As it becomes more extreme, it becomes more and more unacceptable, and to be quite frank, it becomes greater and greater as a sin against children and against God. Abuse is not okay. We look at the Quorum of the 12. Probably most of those guys themselves have been disciplined in terms that we wouldn't even dream of today. Their ages reflect the values that they held growing up. So I would imagine probably some of them use corporal punishment in their own families. Those things once were acceptable. I don't think as a people we need to apologise for standing today and saying we do not accept violence against children today in any form. And if we once did, then we repent, we move on, we do better as a people. Can we agree on that? Seeing people go online and justifying children having to the suggestion that children today are sorely in need of being beaten physically, I have to call it as I see it. That's abuse. And nothing about our faith, nothing in the handbook of instructions will ever give you material that you can twist into condoning abuse. It is not a healthy practice, and that is what it looks like. Violence against children is abuse, and we left it behind. As a country, it's now illegal. Thank goodness. But we do have a past, and these things did happen. Healing and learning from that is part of our job as a world. It still exists all over the world, and we stand against it. We just do. That's what God expects from us. It's spelled out. And so that's the message that I wanted to share. I am so sorry for the pain that people that I love are going through. I'm so sorry that people within those communities are in pain, and that, to my mind, guys, no justice has been done, because that verdict is a horrible verdict. I wish nothing but peace and healing and love for everyone in our community and beyond. I am aware that I might have triggered a lot of feelings and a lot of pain as I've spoken tonight. My wishes are nothing but the best for all of those who've been affected by this situation. I have friends. You are my people. And I have a great love and admiration in a lot of ways for how things are being handled and how strongly you all feel. But let's try to be better. Anyway, this Palm Sunday, where Jesus took the first steps that I can see in the gospel of demonstrating what it is to say no and to raise your voice against systems that are not correct. Yeah, I'm raising it today. I'm raising it to say do better online. I'm raising it to say let's stop making excuses for things that we need to leave behind. I hope that you can all understand the motivation that has caused me to speak out in this way. And I also would ask that maybe if in the coming weeks and months, as we cover the topic of abuse, which we planned to do way back from last year, we're going to be talking about lots of different forms of abuse and how our church and how our communities handle the topic of abuse. I'm not going to be revisiting this story, alluding to it in any way. But if you guys need me, if you guys have anything that you want to talk about, then you know where I am. You can message us at any time. I should have started with a trigger warning. I apologise that I didn't. But this was a very last minute decision to come on and speak about this. Thank you for joining me again. Thank you for staying with us tonight. Thank you for being our friends. I should have put a ton of comments up on the screen there, which I didn't get to do because I was so busy talking. Anyway, guys, have a peaceful rest of your Sunday. We hope to see you over the next few days with our next episode. We have the amazing Dana Kimball, who is going to come on and talk with us. We are going to be talking with Sam Young at some point. And we've got lots of other less intense things that we want to talk about too. If you need us, you know where we are. And we bless all of your journeys and all of those who have been affected by the things that we've spoken about tonight. We send our love to the victims of abuse in any form. We stand with you. Good night.